The global rush to build artificial intelligence has triggered a massive infrastructure hunt. Investors are desperately searching for the ultimate hardware, the silicon engines capable of powering this expansion without hitting physical roadblocks. Growth investor Cathie Wood has taken a notably contrarian stance in this race. She actively avoids investing in memory stocks, deliberately excluding major players like SK Hynix. This graphic breaks down her core thesis. She argues that high bandwidth memory, or HBM, is a highly cyclical and commoditized component. As Wood puts it, when technology costs triple or quadruple, engineers eventually design around the bottleneck. She assumes new computing architectures will eliminate the need for HBM entirely. Her entire framework relies on what we can call the cobalt analogy. She looks at memory chips the same way an automotive engineer looks at a raw material in an electric vehicle battery. When cobalt became too expensive, Elon Musk successfully engineered it out of Tesla batteries by changing the chemical composition. Wood expects software engineers to apply this exact logic to silicon, designing around memory to bypass the cost. The catch is Musk holds the opposite view on computing infrastructure. He explicitly states, memory is the biggest bottleneck to building data centers. A battery chemical is a substitutable ingredient. Silicon data transit is a strict constraint governed by the speed of light and physical distance. Treating them as the same thing represents a severe misunderstanding of hardware physics. Let's look at the actual hardware. Two prominent new architectures, Cerebras and Grok, claim they can operate without traditional high-bandwidth memory. This diagram shows the Cerebras chip packing 44 gigabytes of SRAM onto a wafer to bypass external memory. But extreme-scale models physically cannot fit data streams from external nodes. The bottleneck isn't eliminated, it's displaced to an external injection pathway. Grok brute forces the problem by linking massive grids of small SRAM chips. Running a 70 billion parameter model requires hardware costing 10 times more than NVIDIA's equivalent. That structural cost leaves Grok operating at a negative 50% gross margin. These companies are not engineering memory out. They are either pushing the bottleneck to another part of the system or relying on venture capital subsidies to mask the staggering cost of replacing HBM. This visual maps out two very different problem-solving methods. In software, if a database is slow, an engineer can write a bypass loop. But in hardware, data has mass and must travel across physical space. This graph tracks the collision curve of memory technologies. SRAM capacity is strictly hard-limited by the horizontal two-dimensional space on a silicon die. HBM solves the space constraint by stacking memory chips vertically. Three distinct geometric vectors drive exponential memory demand: volume, context length, and the multiplier effect. First is volume. The number of parameters is rapidly approaching 1 trillion. Flat SRAM arrays simply lack the physical space to hold this baseline capacity. Second is context length. AI models are now processing millions of tokens of information simultaneously, generating massive memory caches. And third is the multiplier. Autonomous frameworks running 100 active agents at once multiply that exact data burden by 100. When data expands across 3 mathematical dimensions at once, horizontal die space runs out. Vertical 3D memory stacking is an inescapable physical requirement. Historically, memory behaved exactly how Cathie Wood describes it. In the 2010s, DRAM chips were highly fungible, easily swappable commodities where prices fluctuated purely on supply and demand. This chart maps how that market has evolved. By 2026, high-bandwidth memory will be a custom-stacked, co-designed platform dominated by only 3 global suppliers. The AI inference stack is separating by task. SRAM will handle tiny, low-latency edge cases at the top, but the absolute heavy lifting for massive models remains structurally anchored to the HBM tier at the base. SK Hynix controls roughly 70% of this integrated platform. This market share represents an architectural moat, shifting the company's role from a chipmaker to a primary architect of AI infrastructure. This table summarizes the core flaw in the narrative. Cobalt is a substituable raw ingredient. High-bandwidth memory dictates the physical transit of data through space. Investors who try to negotiate with hardware bottlenecks using a software mindset will misallocate capital. You can write a line of code to bypass a slow database, but physics does not negotiate.